Yellowstone fans, the drama just keeps getting darker, and one shocking theory is making waves. Jamie Dutton might meet a tragic end, but by his own hand. Could this be the climax of his power struggles and family betrayals in Season 5? Stick around as we explore the clues, the tension with Beth, and how this theory could change everything we know about Yellowstone. Even though it seems unlikely, Jamie's redemption was only hinted at in Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 11. The death of John Dutton, played by Kevin Costner, has defined Taylor Sheridan's neo-Western hit on Paramount Network's comeback. The writers had to come up with a method to explain the veteran actor's departure from the series, even though he had been the show's face for the most of its run. The Dutton patriarch was ultimately killed in Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2, and the remainder of the show's existence has focused on the tragedy and its aftermath. The response of Beth and Casey upon hearing of their father's death has been the main topic of both All You Need Is Desire and the Apocalypse of Change. But 353 changes the plot to show Jamie's reaction to the catastrophe. Given that John was discovered with a gun next to him, his death in Yellowstone was initially determined to be suicide. Casey had to look into it himself, though, because Beth was adamant that it wasn't true. In the end, Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 11 reopens the case, stressing Jamie as the cops investigate the potential of foul play. In Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2, Jamie is technically unrelated to the murder of his adoptive father. Sarah, a corporate shark and his romantic girlfriend, was the mastermind behind the whole plot. Although the details of the former Montana governor's murder are still unclear, if Beth hadn't persuaded Casey that foul play was there, the murderers would have been able to get away with the plot. As a result, when Yellowstone's medical examiner, Janice Everly, redid the autopsy, she came to different conclusions. When his father's successor humiliates him in front of the entire government by effectively forcing him to resign as Attorney General, Jamie feels the heat of the moment because John's death was officially walked back as suicide. Even though he wasn't personally involved in the crime, he is about to lose it under pressure, which will lead to a heated argument with Sarah. Despite his immense influence, Jamie lacks the courage to follow through on the plan. Sarah manages to calm him down, but given her unfortunate circumstances, it might not last long. In addition to providing an explanation for John's disappearance following Costner's departure from Yellowstone, his death was also meant to increase Jamie's stature and influence in Montana. Unfortunately for him, he didn't feel like he really relished his victory, and even then, he only had a very short period of time to revel in it. To begin with, he had to pretend to be sad in order to convey his fictitious sorrow at his father's death. In the eyes of Montanan, he and John were still family, even though they had a history of disagreements. Given the sudden turn of events in John's death case, Jamie and Sarah quarrel, both of them quite tense. When their argument turns physical, she leaves the house in a hurry, but Jamie calls and they make amends. Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 11 does not allow them to truly reunite, even though they are able to resolve their heated argument. Sarah has been shot several times and someone has already ordered a hit on her. She dies at the end of the outing and her final phone call is with the distressed Montana AG. Whatever the real reason for their liaison, Jamie had an ally in Sarah. She readily took her in as he struggled to gain the acceptance of his family and to win the Dutton patriarch's approval. Since Sarah is no longer with him, Jamie is genuinely alone. When you combine that with the possible consequences of being the last person to speak with Sarah before she is killed, he might be left with no choice but to make amends. Jamie has a lot of work ahead of him if he truly wants to make amends. In addition to what happened to John, Beth despises him for everything he has done to her and their family. The full-scale fight between the siblings was always going to be the focus of Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2, but the most recent developments in the series add complexity and interest to their struggle. Even Casey is growing resentful of his adopted brother, but Jamie still has a chance to win him over. This is particularly relevant given Beth's persistently compelling claims of his treachery. At this stage, however, Jamie can only hope to gain the Duttons' favor if they assist them in obtaining the ranch instead. He is still Montana's Attorney General, and even though it will be more difficult to reverse what he has done, he might still be helpful as Beth and Casey try to figure out how to protect the Dutton family's land from the developers. Jamie might even figure out a means to hold those responsible for John's death accountable if he is genuinely dedicated to the cause. However, it's important to remember that Beth and Casey might not be able to forgive Jamie even if he performs a miracle and brings them the ranch and the individuals responsible for John's death. Beth specifically stated that she would kill him in some way, and given her past, it is obvious that she wants to carry out her vow. Jamie must therefore make a sacrifice significant enough to atone for all the destruction he has caused in the past if he is to be completely saved. Given the circumstances, Jamie's sacrifice for the greater good of Dutton might be his last deed in Yellowstone. Beth would still achieve the same objective, to see him die, even if she would not get the thrill of murdering him. Indeed, it's hard to see Yellowstone resolving these unresolved plots while Jamie lives, particularly if rumors of a season 6 or sequel prove to be accurate. Ending his journey by sacrificing himself for penance would be ideal for the sake of his character's possible redemption.